Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final movie in Project Pixar. Here.
We made it?
We made it, man. This is number 23. This is Soul. Soul came out in 2020, and before I get into that, I'll say, Noah, how are you?
I got Soul, and I'm feeling super bad.
I love it. I feel good. So, Soul came out in 2020, and is the first Pixar film to not be released in theaters. Came directly to Disney Plus. We all watched it in our homes, most likely. So let's just delve right in. I will take the first on this one. Who is our favorite character? My favorite character is Terry, who is one of the entities in The Great Before. I just love his voice. He sounds so not mysterious, but very suspicious of everything. Like, wait a minute, there's a number off. Yeah, all right. I think I will do that. And the way he climbs through all... And just kind of the entities in The Great Before in general, I really enjoy. I love their design. It's a great mix of being able to comprehend it, but also being very abstract. But Terry in particular always stood out to me just because he almost reminds me of a little mouse because he's so much shorter than the rest of them and the way he just along. So, yeah, I've got to go with Terry. What about you?
It's kind of love and hate, but I'd go with 22. I'll have to go with 22 because... I just feel like, from a standpoint of the character, 22 has an arc to me, that's pretty well fleshed out. 22 has some funny moments, and it's fun to kind of work out the thought process of what 22 is thinking. I don't know if I per se like I grow to love, her relationship with Joe, but they have some kind of rapport there that's interesting to watch, at least. And I do appreciate and like the part at the end where, she's basically, it's kind of getting to the root of the character, that the reason why that she's been, or that 22 has been so against becoming, finding her spark and going to Earth is just constantly being downtrodden on and being dismissed and just this feeling of self-worthlessness that exists within the character. I think what they were going for was really good, but whether or not they pulled it off is kind of a little bit different. But
yeah, that's fair. So moving on from favorite character, what's your least favorite moment?
Pretty much the whole second act. On repeat viewings, it raises questions like Joe should be dead with what happened to him. He shouldn't be able to just get out of bed, even if let's say he had a concussion or something like that. But he shouldn't be able to, even if it was 22 and taking over his body would not be able to just spring out of bed and do whatever he wanted to do. She would still be limited to what his body can do. And then yes, it's kind of funny that he goes into a cab, but it's also kind of lazy because, we can bring out funny stuff from him being in a cat, but it doesn't really add anything. It just causes problems. Probably one of my more favorite parts, actually, is in the barbershop. And the fact that, you've never talked to me about this before. You've always wanted to talk about music. That part was kind of interesting. But outside of that, the whole second act just really doesn't do much for me. The best parts is, in The Great Before, and the end has its own problems, but the second act.
That's fair. I actually have a review on this channel called The Plot Hole in Your Soul, which is my least favorite part, and it's that, yes, the whole concept of Joe being there in the first place and him being dead versus not is just ridiculous, and it defies all logic. So the point is that he fell so hard he died. So he split his head open or broke all the bones in his body. But then he's in a hospital bed, which means someone saw him fall, dragged him out of there, and took him to a hospital where they put him on a bed on an IV. You know what that means? That means he's alive. Because if he was dead, they would have taken him to the morgue. They don't set you up in a hospital bed to then hook you up to equipment to keep you alive. He can hear his beep, beep, the little heart monitor. So is he dead or not? And then, like you said, even if he like wasn't dead, but he was just like so badly injured, he was on the brink of dying. Okay, then how does he get out of bed and just walk out? And he plays the show that everything goes fine, like he's not even injured. He fell so hard he died. Like, and then Terry has this line later where they catch him and they go, "You cheated, Joe." How did he cheat? He clearly wasn't dead. The logic of the film is baffling, and unfortunately it's the crux of the film. Like, legit, the entire film happens because of that plot point. So for that plot point to be so utterly absurd and not make any sense, it's just, I hate it. I hate it the first time I saw it, and on second viewing, this is one of the films that I think got worse seeing it a second time. I was like, it just doesn't make, and again, you can extend off of that. So no one can hear the cat talk. They all just hear a meow, 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 but they can hear each other. Why? He's in a cat's body. Why can she understand him? That doesn't make any sense when they fall in there. Oh, well, I fell into your body because it doesn't have a soul in it. So why didn't he fall into his body? It doesn't have a soul in it. So just the more you think about the logic of this film, it's just utterly ridiculous. From that stuff to even the minute things, like when he runs into whatever the jazz player's name is. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But the lady who wants to perform with, she sees him on the street. And then they call him and they're like, "Yeah, you're fired," because she got freaked out. Oh, Dorothea Williams. If you were on short notice to get a piano player for that evening, you wouldn't then have the luxury of being like, "Yeah, whatever, just fire him. We'll find somebody else." No, that was the point. You couldn't find somebody else. Like, it's just, yeah. And the whole second act is just the second he fell into the cat, I was having Brave flashbacks. I remember like groaning, like, "Oh my God, are we doing this? We're doing another animal body swap thing." So. Yeah, that's my least favorite part.
Yeah, but is there any standout animation to you in the film?
It mostly has to do with The Great Before or The Great Beyond. You know, there is something very kind of ominous about The Great Beyond, just this big void and this conveyor belt, and it really creeps me out. I don't know why, but the way the little souls, like when you see those first souls go into The Great Beyond and they just turn into these little orbs and their faces disappear and they just become nothing. It's just like, what the fuck, man? Like, I'd be like Joe too. I'd be running from a damn life. So, but I love the abstract nature of The Great Before. I like that the first person he runs into, I don't remember what they call them, the Jerrys, I think they call him Jerry, and she like turns into like this creature that he can ride on with this little bubble. So really enjoy everything about that area. What about you?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the Great Before design is really interesting. It's a very pleasing color palette, very bright and luminescent in a way. So I liked that. I did like the idea of like how they presented the lost souls. I thought that whole area was kind of interesting and very neat. A lot of the Great Before stuff. So
yeah,
I love like the Hall of You and that idea of like all these moments that define you. And the Hall of Everything, and that whole creativity aspect of it. That was really neat. And like when he's getting into the music sometimes, and like it just kind of all kind of blacks out, and it's just kind of like the notes and the flow state. That's really pretty well presented.
What about first time memories? So I'm assuming you watched this one from home because I wasn't in theaters. So what were your first time memories?
Well, I saw it. A friend came out and saw it. A friend came out from like states away to come visit me. So we watched it on Disney Plus.
He was that desperate to see Soul? Wow.
Yes. No. So we watched it one night, and it was completely enjoyable. I ended it. I liked it quite a bit. But the more that I see it, the more that the problems stand out to me. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, this is the first Pixar film I've watched from the comfort of my couch for the very first time. You know, I usually always see them in theaters for the first time, or, you know, at a drive-in theater or the bandshell theater or whatever. So it was kind of weird, I won't lie. You know, I always get a little little feeling in my heart when I see that lamp jump across and squish down the Pixar eye. And so it was kind of weird watching it from my couch this time. But I was unemployed at the time, and so I had nothing better to do. But I was excited. I was like, wow, this is weird, but I'm excited, new Pixar film. And then I remember afterwards, I kind of just immediately didn't like it. It was like, I didn't hate it, but I was just like, something's off about this film. And I started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, that didn't make any sense. So, memorable in the sense that I was at my own house, so it was very strange. But yeah, so that's my first time.
How'd the music play for you?
Good. It was very good. I know I have a friend, Michael, and he loves this because he's a big jazz guy. So this really spoke to him. So I do really get that. It didn't quite speak to me on that level, but I still really enjoyed it. I love the opening where it's what is it? The Disney theme, yeah. And it's
When You Wish Upon a Star,
but it's played by a high school band, and they're all really awful. And there's some great little piano licks in there, and it's fun when he's like auditioning for Dorothea Williams, and she just starts playing, and then he tries to like follow along. So it has a really good soundtrack. So I really like it. What about you?
Yeah, definitely one of the stronger parts about the film is the soundtrack. The jazz moments are all great. I actually really like the Trent Reznor stuff too, with the kind of the synth and the kind of otherworldliness that he brings to it. Is indicative of what kind of that should feel like with The Great Before and everything. So I really do like Trent Reznor's work actually as a composer. I think he's pretty.
Yeah, well, when I saw his name in the credits, I was like, isn't that the lead singer of Nine Inch Nails? Like, what? How cool is that? So, what was your favorite dialogue, line, or joke?
I did really like the moment where Terry thinks he's catching Joe, and he catches that other guy, and just the look, he like goes into the in between space, and it comes out, and he's just like shook to his core, and Terry's just like, "Ooh, you didn't see any of this," or something like that. Like that whole like mistaken identity thing was really funny. When they're in the zone or whatever, and just knocking people out of the zone, like the basketball player that like hits the rim or something like that.
Well,
and
she says, "I've been messing with this team for years," and it goes, "And the Knicks blow another one."
That's what it was. That was that was a really funny line. Those two moments in particular were very funny to me. There's some heartfelt stuff in there, but nothing is really calling out to me as like something super.
Yeah, it's a heartfelt moment. I don't really remember much of the dialogue, but I still enjoy the moment where Joe talks to his mother and confronts her. And in particular, I like the way the camera pans, because he's in the cat and he's like, "Repeat after me." And it's his mom, and it pans over her shoulder, but it just pans to actually Joe talking. So again, we get the idea that, okay, these are the words Joe is saying through the cat, and we just don't see it. And then the two things that made me laugh the most, it's funny because neither of them is actually a spoken line, but it's when Joe first tumbles out of the zone or whatever back into his body, and what's his name, like Moonshine or Moonwind, I think. The guy's helping him, and the hole closes up, and there's a problem. And he turns around and starts whistling and like doo, 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 and just like walks away immediately. Like the speed at which he just drops his staff and turns around is really good. And it's a not spoken line, but when Joe steals the slice of pizza as the cat to feed his body, he passes this rat on the street, and they like look at each other because they're both dragging food, and it's like, okay, and then they just keep going their other ways. Like it's just this really nice moment of like, are you gonna attack me? We cool? Okay, bye. So
yeah, that part was really funny.
Yeah,
I want to ask you actually about a specific quote, which I think is the one that's probably the most pulled from the movie.
I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say.
So Joe plays that show at the end. They kill it. They absolutely kill the show. Have a great show. Everything goes well, and he leaves with this feeling of emptiness, with a lack of fulfillment, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And Dorothea says, "What's wrong?" He's like, "I've been waiting for this day my entire life, and I thought I'd feel different." And she says, "I heard this story about a fish." He swims up to this older fish and says, "I'm trying to find this thing they call the ocean." "The ocean? says the older fish. That's what you're in right now. This, says the young fish, this is water. What I want is the ocean. Then she says, see you tomorrow. Does that quote come across for you?
I'm glad you mentioned that. And I knew that was the quote you would pick because I wanted to mention this too. So I have no idea what that quote means. So no, it didn't come across because I don't understand it. I don't know, like, it almost sounds like it's supposed to be kind of an Aesop's fable, but I don't understand what it's even saying. Is it saying that the older fish is blind and ignorant and doesn't understand that, no, this is just a body of water, I want the actual ocean? Is it saying that the younger fish doesn't appreciate the fact that you already have what you want and you don't even realize it? Or is it something else entirely? I have no idea what that quote means, and the movie I don't think does a good job of explaining it or selling it. How do you interpret it?
No, I 100% agree with you. I when that moment came, and I after she said that, I was like, well, I sat there, I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, so what is she saying exactly? This is, I put it in my head, I was like, clearly this is the meaning of this whole story. And if I can't figure out what that is trying to say, then that is poor writing.
Yep.
So
I
do think I know. I think what it is trying to get across is when he says this, the ocean, he's like, this, the younger fish says, this is water, is saying that what you wanted, what you thought was so grand, has been in front of you the whole time. I think that's what it's trying to say. But the way that she delivers it too makes it seem like, I don't know. It doesn't come across the way that I think they intended it to.
Yeah, I agree. It's a failure of writing. It is, so many films and media have these moral moments. Think of The Lion King, the most famous, very iconic moral moment, which they took out of the live action version because I guess it made the movie too good. Is Rafiki whacking him on the head with a stick and saying, why did you do that? What does it matter? It's in the past. Right, but it still hurts. Yes, the past can hurt, but you can either run from it or learn from it. Swings again and he ducks. Anyone can get that. It's such a great on-the-nose metaphor that's not only you get to physically see it, it is the message of the whole film. So I agree with you, like, the way she says it, like, water, this is water, I want the ocean, makes it sound like the small fish has the moral message. But I still don't understand. I can try to guess at it like you did, but like you said, this is the heart of this is, Joe finally got what he wants, and now he doesn't feel good, and they can't. I just don't get it. Think of other Pixar films. A Bug's Life, Flick's speech to Hopper, ants don't serve grasshoppers, it's you who need us. That's the heart of the fucking film. The Incredibles, I can't lose you again. I'm not strong enough. If we work together, you won't have to. Yeah. So yeah, Pixar's normally so good about driving the point of the movie home. Ellie's last words to Carl, thanks for the adventure, go have another one. Those moments are so obvious. Like, how did they mess? Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand that quote at all. And I agree. I think it's a failure of writing. Yep. So, expounding on that, what I would change, I just wish they had done something entirely different with this film. When I first saw the previews, I thought it was going to be about this guy who loves music and he wants to pursue a career in it. And I just don't, like, it's, as much as I enjoy the Great Before stuff, it just feels at such conflict with this film. And I don't understand the message of this film. And full disclosure here, I'm in a relationship with an actual musician who has told me in her life she had to give up dating for a while to pursue a career in music, but she's got that now and she's happy. And the film almost seems to say, like, he shouldn't do that. People try to put him down. Oh, you want to be in this show. You want to be. Why is that a bad thing? Why is it a bad thing that he cares about music? The movie never shows Joe to be so obsessive or so single-minded about this that he pushes out everything else in his life. They show that montage at the end where, like, he's playing piano that he did like there's this moment where he's watching fireworks with his parents. Why not reshoot that to where while his parents are watching firework, he's in the corner studying music? And the point is that he's so obsessive about it, he missed all the other things in life. That makes sense. That's a message. But they don't do that. They show that he cares about his students. He goes to work on time. He shows up at his mother's shop. He goes to the barber shop. Yeah, he talks about jazz, but so what? That's what he cares about. Like, so I don't even understand what the message of this film is. And I have to mention on 22, before I hand it off to you, I know you like that moment. I don't like that moment at all, because my issue with that character is that they try to show this thing of like she has no self-worth because all these people told her she couldn't do it. You know what you did in that scene movie? You showed me that 22 purposefully antagonized all those people. If you go back and watch those scenes, she's making faces at him. She's saying mean things to him. She says later, I'm going to make you wish you never died. She goes out of her way to antagonize people. And then the film tries to make me feel bad for this person. Oh, all these people said I weren't good. Yes, because you went out of your way to make them not like you. And now I'm supposed to feel bad for you? Get out of here. But not you, Noah. Tell me, what would you change?
I think... Same thing. Like I feel like there was a different path to take with this movie, as far as the message, that I think would have worked better. And I think it revolves for me around the character. I think her name was Connie, the
student,
the young student, the young student. I felt like there was a good setup there, where he was trying to come on to her at the beginning to say, you may think it's dumb or stupid that you have this interest, but let me tell you, you need to listen to yourself and what you really love, and this can be, your spark, so to speak.
Yeah.
This can be what you can grow to love this. So, and they could have tied that in with the fact that he becomes this mentor to 22, and through the mentorship, he realizes that instead of being the one to, perform and create the art, being a mentor is as important as it is as making the art itself, and guiding these people. And I think they could have used that Connie character to be like the heart of the film, for making him have that realization, and coming to her at the end being like, and her making that realization too, of that shared love for music, and that being the idea. Just, I think that if the idea was about mentorship, being a teacher is just as important as anything else. Like, that could have been the crux of the film, is how important it is to be a teacher and why that's important. That's just my thought.
Yeah.
I think we could have went with that direction.
No,
because the whole, it's messy when you're talking about what makes life worth living, because that should be different for everybody. Like,
right.
That you can't say, hey, life is life and life is worth living. No, life is different for everybody. Mm-hmm. And there are different circumstances and different things that make life worth living for whatever situation that you're in.
Yeah.
You can't say all around you is life and that's what you should take in and that's why you should live. It's not as peachy as that.
Right. They try to make a big deal out of this line where she catches the helicopter and she was like, I could just be like a skywatcher, and he says that's not like a spark or whatever, that's just plain old living. And it feels like the film's trying to like get at Joe for that, like, see, he didn't it's like, no, but that is plain. Yes, it is interesting to 22 because it's brand new to her, but you know what an interesting part of life is to me? Accepting the mundane reality that you live in. When you catch a helicopter for the 18th time, it's not exciting anymore, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that kind of goes with that teacher aspect with me, because he felt like that was a mundane, everyday kind of like, I have to do this every day, it's in and out, it's my job, but he doesn't realize the impact that he is making on these students, or on Connie in particular. So if you did make it about, the message being that it doesn't matter if your life is mundane, it still matters.
Yes. Absolutely. And they even have the little hint there, the guy who gets him the gig, like Curly or whatever his name is, his student who's like, you were the biggest influence on me. So I like that angle. I wish they would have gone with an angle like that. So closing thoughts, wrapping up here. Another thing I'll say about the logic, it implies at the end, after 22 has gone back, he's returned to Earth in his body. He's sitting there playing the piano, and he basically commits suicide. He gives away his Earth pass to 22 and decides to go. And had they not intervened, I guess he would have just slumped over dead in his apartment from excessive piano playing. And, like, why doesn't Terry intervene at that point either? When she throws his Earth pass at him and he goes back and they're like, yep, he's fine, he can go live again. The logic of this film just makes absolutely no sense. It just caves in on itself.
Didn't they explain that with Terry, though? Like, said we'll keep him busy or something like that.
That's after they make amends for it, when they're like, oh, Terry, look over there, and they change the counter. But think about it beforehand. When he catches Joe in 22, 22 is supposed to go to Earth now because she has her spark. Instead, she gives her pass to Joe, and he just goes back. I guess that's fine. I don't know. Logic of this film's all over the place. It was a real disappointment for me. I was kind of surprised how many people liked it. Again, I wonder if that's...
It's got an 8.1 on IMDb.
That's crazy to me. Like, again, but maybe I'm in the minority, so whatever. But yeah, Soul was not for me. There's some good ideas here. There really are, but it's pretty lousy execution.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good point.
All right, and that is that was our last actual movie. We're not done yet. We have one last video for you, and we're going to rank every single one of these films and let you know what we think. And until then, we'll see you then.